right?
Hey. I'm sorry.
My life's at risk, so other people's lives.
And we don't want you to have to compromise yourself.
Early in Fake Blood, director and narrator Rob Grant mentions an act of heinous violence committed by two 10-year-old boys. It struck me suddenly as the crime itself was committed in my city of birth, Liverpool, and to hear it repeated in a documentary written and directed by filmmakers separated by near 5,000 miles took me completely aback. Some acts of violence are completely unbound by their ability to shock. The act in question, which I will only briefly describe, concerned two young 10-year-old boys and their abduction and murder of a toddler. Their excuse for committing the act? They were recreating the actions of the murderous doll Chucky from the horror film Child's Play 3. This led many to ask the question of what extent movie violence has played in real-world acts of brutality, and whether filmmakers behind gory images of murder and death have some degree of responsibility for these crimes. Does fiction inevitably influence fact? These are just some of the questions and ideas that writers Grant, Kovac and Patterson set out to explore in a documentary that itself blurs the lines between fact and fiction. Fake Blood opens on a bloodied corpse splayed in a bathtub captured by the shaky hand and grain iconic of crime scene photography. A violent murder has occurred. Or has it? Cut, comes the demand, as struggling filmmaker Rob Grant leans into frame to relieve his actor/former friend Mike Kovac from his rigor mortis impersonation. From these early scenes onward, our perception of violence and its impact is being used to toy with us.
Do you feel responsible for that kind of violence in films?
I don't think we have a responsibility.
The story begins when the Vancouver filmmakers receive an ominous video from a fan of a previous film, a Fargo-like dark comedy concerning two dumb fucks and a botched kidnapping with typically gruesome results. The fan narrates as he walks through a hardware store, informing the filmmakers on the correct way to dismember a corpse in relation to a scene from their film. Unsettled by the video, Grant and Kovac ruminate over what impact their brand of movie violence has had on audiences, leading them down surprisingly dark alleys and to the fringes of the local criminal underworld. To describe the film in any further detail would do a disservice to this tightly wound and effectively believable docu-thriller, as its central story spirals to unexpected places. In fact, I spent much of the first act expecting Grant to show his hand, resulting in his usual brand of gratuitous bloodshed, the type alluded to by the film's poster, but instead found his dedication to the question of the influence of cinematic violence rather than depictions of gore themselves, both refreshing and absorbing. Although Fake Blood may be a mature affair for a group of indie filmmakers better known for their gleefully over-the-top bloodshed, it's no less fun and compelling. For what Grant ultimately presents us in this brisk documentary, the director clearly putting his blockbuster editing chops to good use, is less Henenlotter and more Hitchcock, with Grant as our James Stewart figure caught in an obsessive pursuit that ultimately may cost him more than just his friendships. If there is any fault in Fake Blood, it is that the facade of realism falters for a scant handful of overworked shots, or at least, I think it does. But those shots are fleeting and likely to be missed by those not scouring each scene for clues. As a result, I too began to ask the question, could this be real? Considering the possible implications of its haunting final moments, you too will be hoping it isn't. Fake Blood was a true festival highlight, and a film I suspect will be with me for some time. And I award it 4 out of 5 stars. And that is all from me, Gareth Green, with my latest review. Remember to subscribe to Popcorn Digest for up-to-date reviews, interviews and much more. And follow us on our social media pages found at the links below. I'll be back soon with more exclusive Grimfest content, but in the meantime, thanks for listening.